So 2025 is coming to a close, and we have seen some really big trades happen this calendar year. So today we're going to be grading the biggest trades of 2025 that happened last year at the deadline and also happened in the 2025 offseason. Because it's still weird, we haven't gotten a trade yet here in the 2026 regular season. And make sure you're subscribed, because in February I'm going to be regrading the whole 2025 trade deadline, the biggest trade deadline of all time, every single deal. But obviously we're going to talk about some of those deals today. And the first one we're going to talk about is De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs from the Sacramento Kings. And this deal ended up being a 3-team deal on February 2nd. The Spurs received De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Sacramento Kings received Zach LaVine, Sidy Cissoko, a 2025 lottery protected first round pick from the Hornets, which turned into 2 seconds, a 2027 first round pick that the Kings eventually traded for Nick Clifford, a 2031 first round pick from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and 3 second rounders. And then the Chicago Bulls received Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and the Spurs to lift their protection on their 2025 first round pick. And we're going to start off with the San Antonio Spurs side of things. I'm giving them an A. The fact that they basically got De'Aaron Fox for 30 cents on the dollar to help build one of the best teams in the Western Conference now for the future is such a good move in hindsight. They essentially gave up 2 valuable first round picks here and matching salary of Zach Collins and Trey Jones to get De'Aaron Fox, who in my opinion is a top 10 point guard in the NBA. The San Antonio Spurs, like I said, are one of the best teams in the NBA this season. They are 23-8. They are the 2 seed in the Western Conference. De'Aaron Fox is averaging 22 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 6.1 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 39% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. He was going to be a free agent in 2026, which kind of dipped his value a little bit, and he came out and said, I'm not re-signing with the Sacramento Kings, who recently fired their head coach at the time, Mike Brown. Fox ends up signing a massive extension with the Spurs this offseason, which starts at $49.8 million next year, and that will go up to $61.7 million in 2030. But so far, Fox has been worth every penny. He's still just 28 years old, and when you can get a top 10 point guard for what they give up, you do this every single time, while you have Stephon Castle, Victor Wembanyama, and Dylan Harper all under their rookie contracts. This is an easy A for the San Antonio Spurs. It's one of the best trades anybody has made in the last few years. For the Sacramento Kings, I'm giving them a D+ for this trade. Yeah, when I'm questioning if the Memphis Grizzlies got a better return for Desmond Bane than you got for De'Aaron Fox, a homegrown star, one of your best players of the last decade, I just can't really justify this one by any means. Now, with their draft picks, they were able to get Maxime Reno, who's been a good rookie this year, with one of those second rounders. They traded away that 2027 Spurs first for Nick Clifford, but the problem is both those players are a little bit on the older side, and I'm worried when the Kings are going to be good again, these guys are going to be just kind of later in their primes just because they're a little bit older right now. They get Zach LaVine, who's been kind of untradeable, and Zach LaVine isn't a bad player by any means, and he's been mostly available for the Sacramento Kings ever since they traded for him, but it's just he's making $40+ million right now. He's got a player option next year for just as much at $48.9 million. I don't think anybody's lining up to trade for a 30-year-old Zach LaVine, who might be a good number 2 or number 3 option. Maybe a team takes a desperation swing at him this year at the deadline, but this being your best player coming back in a De'Aaron Fox trade, I can't justify that whatsoever. I'm not giving it an F, but I'm going to give it a D+. I can't really give them a good grade here. And for the Chicago Bulls side of things, I'm just going to give them a C. So them lifting their protection on this pick actually worked out, since they ended up picking number 12, and they selected Noah Essengay, who unfortunately has missed most of his rookie season and is not going to play yet again here in 2026. Essengay will finish his rookie career with 2 games played and 0 points at the NBA level. Trey Jones has been a solid Chicago Bull, I'll say. Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter will be up at the end of this year. They won't have to pay Zach LaVine that $48+ million next year. It's just like, I feel like the Bulls and the Kings should just stop being involved into trades with each other. They just never work out for either team. Next up, we're going to talk about another trade that happened at the 2025 deadline. This is when the New Orleans Pelicans traded away Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. Now, funny enough, that first-round pick was the 2026 Indiana Pacers first-round pick that the Raptors got in the Pascal Siakam trade at the 2025 trade deadline. We now know that the Pelicans traded that pick before Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles to get the 23rd overall pick in this year's draft in 2025, and they used that and their unprotected first-round pick swap this year with the Bucks to go out and get Derek Queen, who's been a great rookie, but we're going to just grade this trade in a vacuum. We'll start off with the Toronto Raptors. I'm giving them a B+. They had to give Brandon Ingram essentially a 3-year extension worth $120 million before he ever played a single game for them, and Brandon Ingram has been a really solid Toronto Raptor this year in year number 1. He's still just 28 years old. He's been in the NBA for about a decade now, and he's averaging 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3.8 assists, shooting 47% from the field, 34% from 3, and 81% from the free throw line. The Toronto Raptors are a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference when I'm recording this. I don't think Brandon Ingram will be an all-star this year because I think they just get one, and I think it's going to be Scotty Barnes. But for what they gave up, this is a really good trade for the Toronto Raptors. Now, we're going to have to see how Brandon Ingram performs in a playoff series. We haven't seen him play in a playoff series since 2024, where he averaged 14 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder, in which they got swept in. He did play well against the Phoenix Suns back in 2022, but he's just got 2 playoff series under his belt. Hopefully, we see a third this year in Toronto. And Ingram, yes, is making $38 million this year, $40 million next year, and a $41.9 million player option in 2028. I think this is objectively a good trade for the Raptors, given that they kind of gave up like 20 cents on the dollar for somebody of Brandon Ingram's caliber, who's one of the best mid-range scorers in the NBA, and it's just kind of what Toronto needed in that half court. And for the Pelicans, I'm going to give them a D for this trade. They didn't end up re-signing Bruce Brown at the end of the year, who barely played for the Pelicans last year. Kelly Olynyk, they ended up shipping off to Washington in that Jordan Poole, CJ McCollum trade, and we know that he traded that first-round pick, which made them inevitably give up their unprotected swap this year, which it got trickled down from the Pacers trade, then the Hawks trade, and they got a second rounder in this deal as well, which is a 2031 second rounder from the Toronto Raptors. I just feel like the Pelicans traded away Brandon Ingram a year too late. I feel like after his really encouraging 2023 season, they could have sold high on Brandon Ingram, who was operating as a great kind of point guard in that New Orleans half-court system. He was averaging 6 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and averaged 24.7 points in 2023. Probably the best year of his career. And I get why you don't want to trade the guy after the best year of his career. You didn't know that it was going to be his peak in New Orleans, but I feel like it's just another bad move that David Griffin had in that previous New Orleans regime. Now let's go to a trade that happened this past offseason. Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. This trade sent Kevin Durant to Houston in exchange for Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, the 10th overall pick, which was actually Phoenix's first rounder that was sent to Houston, and a couple other deals. They used that to select Kaman Maliwatch, and a ton of second rounders. This actually got lumped into like a 7-team trade in the offseason. I don't know. I think GMs just wanted to say they were a part of the biggest team trade in NBA history. But for Houston, I'm going to give this one an A. Kevin Durant has looked great so far as a Houston Rocket. I don't think they're really missing Jalen Green too much at all. You could say that they are missing Dillon Brooks, but Houston has had a really good defense this year without Dillon Brooks there in Houston. Dorian Finney-Smith recently came back. Tari Eason and Amen Thompson have looked like a formidable duo yet again on the defensive end of the floor. They're the 9th ranked defensive team in the NBA. They're the 2nd ranked offensive team in the NBA, and also 2nd in net rating as well. Kevin Durant is also averaging 25.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists this year, shooting 51% from the field, 44% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line as a 37-year-old. So maybe there was a chance you thought that KD could take a step back given his age. That has not been the case whatsoever. He has looked great yet again for his 5th team in his career, and Houston needed this number 1 option in crunch time. It's a shame that Fred VanVleet tore his ACL because we're not going to be able to see the Rockets at full strength, but Kevin Durant's been worth every penny so far, in my opinion. And oh yeah, he also took a pay cut to re-sign with them on a new 2-year extension. As for the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to give them a B+, which is a really good grade when you're trading somebody of Kevin Durant's caliber. Obviously, they weren't going to have too much leverage, as Kevin Durant could have been a 2026 free agent. He didn't really want to stay in Phoenix, but I think they've actually gotten a solid return. The Phoenix Suns this year have been exceeding expectations so far in the Western Conference. They're 18-13. They're the 12th ranked defensive team and the 13th ranked offensive team, and that's all with Jalen Green, who is the main asset coming back, only playing 2 games so far. He's been nursing a hamstring injury this year, but Dillon Brooks has been kind of the life and soul of the Suns team next to Devin Booker. He's averaging 21.5 points, shooting 33% from 3 on 7 attempts a night, shooting 46% from the field, 81% from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, and 1.3 steals a night. He's been a very good defender, but he still has these same old antics that we kind of know with Dillon Brooks. Some of them are cool, some of them are not really cool. And Kaman Maliwatch hasn't really played at all for the Phoenix Suns either this year, and maybe in hindsight, they could have taken somebody like Derek Queen or Cedric Howard who would help them out right now. But I always knew Kaman Maliwatch was going to be a project in this league. They also traded for Mark Williams on the night of the draft as well, and they're also playing Oso Ighodaro and Nick Richards more than Kaman Maliwatch, who I think will inevitably play for this team after the trade deadline. And then a trade that happened shortly before the Kevin Durant trade, Desmond Bane getting traded from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic in exchange for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's still on Memphis, Cole Anthony, who's not on Memphis, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and a 2029 first-round pick swap. So essentially, it could be 5 first-round picks. They used that 2025 first-rounder and with one of the future Orlando first-rounders to move up on the night of the 2025 draft with Portland to go up and take Cedric Howard, who has been one of the better rookies this year. And for Memphis, I'm going to give this trade a B so far, but it could definitely get better. Now, the main asset I thought coming back was the Phoenix Suns 2026 pick swap. They had the swap wars between Washington and Phoenix has been kind of good this year. I thought there was a chance Phoenix could be a bottom 5 team in the league this year. That has not been the case whatsoever. So this pick looks like it could end up being 19 or 20, which is about 15 spots higher than what I initially thought it could be. So it's hurting the grade a little bit. And I think Orlando is going to be at least solid for the next 4 years, given how young this roster is and at least how high of a floor they have right now. But I'm glad that Memphis hit on Cedric Howard with one of these picks, who's averaging 13.5 points this year, 6 rebounds and 3 assists, shooting 46% from the field. Still just 22 years old, and it feels like a young 22 for Cedric Howard, given that he barely played at all last year at Washington State with an injury. And for Orlando, I'm going to give this a B+ so far. Desmond Bane has had some really good games this year. I feel like he's had a bunch of different games where he scored 37 points. He's averaging 19.2 this year for Orlando and 4.5 rebounds and 4.5 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 34.8% from 3, and 92.6% from the free throw line. Maybe not as good of a 3-point shooting season as you would have liked for somebody that has the track record of being an elite shooter that Desmond Bane has, but he's had some really big moments for Orlando this year. And we've really got to see him at full strength with Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, and Paolo Banchero, because Paolo and Franz have had some serious injuries this year for the Magic. So the 4 of those guys have only appeared in 121 minutes together this year, and they have a positive 16.3 net rating. And hopefully we get Franz Wagner back soon, and hopefully when he comes back, Paolo Banchero doesn't get hurt the moment he does. But yeah, I'm giving this one a B+ right now. It definitely makes it look a little bit better that Phoenix is good this year, because I thought that was the most appealing asset of this trade return at the time. And the last trade we're going to talk about from the 2025 offseason, Michael Porter Jr. going from the Denver Nuggets to the Brooklyn Nets, along with an unprotected 2032 first for Cam Johnson. For Brooklyn, I'm giving this one an A. Michael Porter Jr. was always a shoot first, score first guy, and we knew he was going to have that role in Brooklyn for a team that we didn't really expect to be good this year. And Michael Porter Jr. has been a legitimate #1 option for the Nets this year. 26 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 49% from the field, 40% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line, taking about 18.5 shots a night. He's at a career high 29.9% usage rate. And he's, just been a really good #1 for this team. The Nets have actually been playing some really good basketball as of late. They've been one of the better defensive teams in the month of December. And now Michael Porter Jr. has positive trade value. He did not have positive trade value in the offseason because Denver had to attach a 2032 first-round pick with him to go out and get Cam Johnson. And Michael Porter Jr. is under control this year and next year. He's making about $38 million this year, $40.8 million next year. I didn't think he was going to sniff that number again on his next extension. And I might be wrong. Michael Porter Jr. has been really good this year for Brooklyn. They may trade him, they may not, but the fact that they're going to get positive trade value for him, if they do decide to move him, I have to give this trade for Brooklyn an A, because they're also getting Denver's 2032 first-round pick as well. And for Denver so far, I'm going to give this trade a B-. Now, Cam Johnson has not looked as good as Michael Porter Jr. so far this year, which makes sense. Michael Porter Jr. is allowed to take about 10 more shots a night than Cam Johnson, although I do feel like Cam Johnson is hitting a little bit of an adjustment period here in Denver, and unfortunately, he just suffered, I thought it was going to be a major injury. Thankfully, he's only going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He suffered that injury right before Christmas. He's averaging 11.7 points this year, 3.5 rebounds and 2.5 assists, but you're not trading for Cam Johnson for what he can do in November or December. You're trading for Cam Johnson for what he can do for you in April, May, and June, and that's the goal of the Denver Nuggets this year, to play in June, to play in the NBA Finals, and they thought that Cameron Johnson could give them a better chance at beating OKC or somebody like that in the West than Michael Porter Jr., which can definitely be true, but just so far, I don't think I can really put this any higher than a B-. It's not been super disappointing in Denver so far for Cam Johnson, maybe just not as good as I expected. Second to last trade that we're going to talk about ended up being a 5-team trade with the Jazz, the Pistons, the Raptors, the Warriors, and the Miami Heat. This one sent Jimmy Butler from Miami to Golden State. The Warriors essentially received Jimmy Butler. The Heat received Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Davion Mitchell, as well as a first-round pick, which turned into Kispera Jakachonis. The Jazz ended up receiving Josh Richardson, KJ Martin, some seconds in cash. Detroit got in this trade as well. They got Lenny Waters, Dennis Schroeder, who helped them against the Knicks last year in the playoffs, and a second-rounder. The Raptors received PJ Tucker in a second rounder as well. I'm only going to grade the Heat and the Warriors in this trade. And for Miami, I'm actually going to give this trade a B+ for them. Yeah, it's not the greatest return for Jimmy Butler, given what he did for your franchise in 2020 and in 2023, helping you go to the NBA Finals, and you never really got him too much help. And there was just so much drama surrounding Jimmy and Pat Riley and everything going on with the Heat in 2025. It did feel refreshing when we no longer had to hear that drama anymore. And Andrew Wiggins has been a good Miami Heat so far. Davion Mitchell has been good, and they were able to use Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love to go out and get Norman Powell for basically free in the 2025 offseason. I still like Kasparas Shakuchonis long term. I don't think it's the greatest return in the world, but you also didn't have to give Jimmy Butler this $60 million extension. I actually like this for the Miami Heat in hindsight. And then for the Warriors, I'm giving them a B. Now, the Warriors went out and made this trade to elevate their ceiling, and we never really got to see the ceiling at its fullest potential last year because Steph Curry got hurt in round number 2 against Minnesota. And I have no idea how the Warriors would have looked in the conference finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Maybe they would have put up a little bit better of a fight than Minnesota, but I feel like Jimmy did not revert back to 2023 Miami Heat Jimmy and carry the Warriors on his back when Steph Curry went down. In that series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists, but just nowhere near the 37 points he averaged against the Milwaukee Bucks in round 1 of 2023. Jimmy's been good this year. Jimmy's still a good player. I'm giving the Warriors a B here just because I don't really think their ceiling has changed prior to when they made this trade. Jimmy's averaging about 20 points this year, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 51% from the field, 41% from 3, 85% from the free throw line. Jimmy is 36 years old, and he did sign a massive extension with the Warriors after this trade, which is basically paying Jimmy Butler around $54 million this year and $56 million next year. And maybe that's a hot take by me, but I just don't know if this made the Warriors that much better. I still think they have some size issues down low, and maybe they resolve those this year at the deadline. And the last trade we have to talk about was maybe the biggest trade in NBA history. Luka Doncic going from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers. I still remember where I was when it happened. I just brushed my teeth. It was a Saturday night. I was ready to go to bed. It was pretty late here on the East Coast. And then I see a notification on my phone from Shams Charania saying that Luka Doncic has been traded. And I'm like, okay, this is a scam account or whatever, right? It's like Scam Charania on Twitter. Press on the profile. Oh, it's got like 1 million followers. What? Did Shams get hacked? And then it's like, no, this is real. And everybody just started to freak out. This is the craziest trade in NBA history because nobody knew that Luka was ever going to get traded. Like, if Giannis gets traded, it's not going to feel as big because we kind of know it's going to happen. Same thing with like Jimmy Butler in the past, or maybe Kawhi Leonard or James Harden, or even a Kevin Durant trade from Brooklyn to Phoenix and Phoenix to Houston. Like, we knew those were going to happen. So it still felt shocking at the time because it actually happened. But this one may never get topped because nobody ever thought Luka would get traded. He was on everybody's untouchable list. He felt like he was one of the 5 guys in the NBA that would never get traded. The Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. The Mavs received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. Utah received Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-rounders. We're only going to grade the Lakers and the Mavs here. We'll start off with the Lakers. I don't really hand out A+ unless you win it all with this trade. This is going to be an exception. The Lakers are getting an A+. Now, in hindsight, if the Lakers gave up Austin Reeves, maybe I dock this trade a little bit if Austin Reeves is doing what he's doing this year in Dallas instead of like Max Christie being in this trade. But no, they were able to keep Austin Reeves. They gave up one first-round pick, Anthony Davis, Max Christie, for Luka Doncic. I know Luka has his flaws. I know he's not the greatest defender in the world, and I know sometimes he can have some inefficient offensive games. He can complain at the refs. Maybe what we saw in the 2024 finals against Boston is always going to be Luka, but he's 26 years old. He's averaging 33.7 points this year, 8 rebounds, and 8.5 assists. I just did my top 25 player ranking. He came in at number 4, and you can make an argument he could be number 3. He's leading the NBA in scoring this year. He's got one of the best resumes ever for somebody going into their year 8 season. Luka is a generational superstar, generational talent, a global icon. This was such an easy trade for the LA Lakers, who had such a bleak looking future because of Anthony Davis's age and injury history, because of LeBron James's age, and they didn't really have much of a young core around those two. But they kind of got the lifeline here. It's always going to be an A+, and it just fell into their laps. Now, for the Dallas Mavericks, yeah, Nico Harrison's vision was always defense, and I think it's criminal. It's a shame that we never got to see Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving together in the 2025 playoffs, because I thought that actually would have been an interesting duo with Gafford and Lively down low. You have PJ Washington, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall on the perimeter, Max Christie coming in, and for a brief second, Quentin Grimes was there as well. We'll talk about that trade in my grading the 2025 deadline 1 year later video that will come out in early February. But for Dallas, I'm gonna give this an F. If you got Austin Reeves in this trade, this could have actually been maybe like a B or B plus. I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt here, or the fact that you knew you were gonna get Cooper Flegg in the lottery. It was just insane that they got handed this lifeline as well in the lottery. And I'm very happy for Mavericks fans who just felt like their team was just ripped out of their chest, and a player that they loved so much was just gone like that. But thankfully, now they have Cooper Flegg to root for, who just turned 19 years old and is going to be an all-star very soon. But Anthony Davis has struggled to stay healthy ever since he got traded to Dallas. Maybe they get a Zachary Reese-Shea or somebody like that this year from the Atlanta Hawks, but it's also a shame that Anthony Davis has struggled to be on the court with Cooper Flegg this year or Kyrie Irving last year. Max Christie is a fine wing in this league. He's not Austin Reeves. And you get a 2029 first-round pick from the Lakers, a team that's going to have Luka Doncic in 2029. So they're always going to have that elevated floor. It's still an F in my opinion. Maybe something changes when I regrade this trade in a few months. Maybe they trade Anthony Davis for a little bit better of a return, but I just know that return isn't going to be anything close to somebody like Luka Doncic. So that is going to be for me. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you guys think about these trades. Let me know what you think about my grades. One of my next videos is going to be me reacting to my top 25-ish players of 2026 that I made back in 2021. So we're going to react to that very soon. I'm excited for that. I'll catch y'all there. Peace.